Welcome back, DIVEBOMB IndyCar podcast, back to review the Grand Prix of Portland, the final road and street course event of 2025, believe it or not. And I'm going to start this episode in a slightly different manner. Do you know what the unofficial motto of Portland is?
I have no idea, Dan.
It's Keep Portland Weird. Were we successful this weekend in keeping Portland weird? I think it was a bit weird.
I feel like we've got a lot of stories, haven't we? I feel like we had a few funky results. We had obviously the race control controversy. We've had the Fox investment since we last did an episode talking like this. So
Portland doesn't deserve the credit for that. That's not weird.
Well, yeah, that's very true.
Palou winning a title isn't weird either. I don't.
Yeah,
think that's
I'm not sure it was that weird, was it really? It was funny, like
slightly weird.
I mean, yeah,
taking a phantom pole.
Yeah, it's just funny to think about. Like, that's it. That's goodbye. That's adios to right turns for 2025. It's kind of
hang on. Drivers have to come out their pit boxes.
Well, yeah. Well done. Yes, that's true. But yeah, pretty sad we're already at that stage. Like, it really dawned on me during qualifying actually when I was like, oh, this is the last time we're going to see this group qualifying format for 6.5 months until 28th of February is when they qualify in St. Pete. So, yeah, all she wrote for the road and street portion.
This weekend really felt like the beginning of the end. Like the fact we had a champion and it's all a bit gloves off. Like it felt, I don't know how to describe it. It felt like a bit messy. But I guess with the championship being wrapped up, there's just something about it. It just felt a bit like, this feels like it's it. Like the season could end tomorrow, and I feel like it was a natural point to end. It felt like a bit of a weird. I guess it's because we're so accustomed to the champion being crowned in the final race that you sort of just naturally put the two and two together. But obviously, Palou hasn't had that happen, well, has made that not happen in 2 of the last 3 years now. Obviously, there was a 16-year streak. The title hadn't been wrapped up until the final race. And obviously Britain 2023, 2024 did go to the final race, and here is like he's now done it 2 races before, and that's like 1 race before was previously unheard of, and now it's like why not add another 54 points on top of that one? So
yeah,
ridiculous.
Something to add on your weirdness comment. Is it weird that Penske won, or is it kind of like signifying
for this season? It's a bit weird.
Is it like signifying a return to normality, or? Yeah, that's up for debate.
Not fully. I don't think we can quite say this was the Penske of old, was it? It still wasn't a stellar weekend all around, was it?
No, you're right. It was a funny one. Like, I feel like the race was exciting, but I also feel like it was one of those where it's kind of frustrating because it took lapped cars to make
We've had
it
a few of them this year. What other ones were like that?
Indy was the big one.
Indy was very much reminiscent of that. I think there were a few others like that. I mean,
well,
Indy GP was like that for a long time.
Yeah, so yeah, there's always a little bit frustrating, but yeah, we don't need to get into that again.
Yeah, so let's get into Alex Palou, though, who seals his 4th IndyCar championship in 5 seasons. I was a big fan of IndyCar continually trying to push the championship right, no matter how out of touch with reality they were. There was an interesting graphic released a couple of days prior to Portland, and that was weird. You must have seen the graphic.
What was it trying to hype it up as though?
No, with the slightly dodgy font. Yeah, the pre-week graphic was slightly weird. That can go into our weird list for this weekend. I'm sure you've seen it. If you haven't, search it up. But yeah, so on back of my bigger point, I just find it so amusing how much IndyCar and Fox are trying to push. Oh, look, there's a title battle. It's only 121 points. So Ward can still get Palou here, and O'Ward taking pole, and it's like, oh my goodness, the championship's turned around. Palou's going to be worrying about O'Ward, and it's like, I don't really think it is. I think this championship has been in Palou's destiny since about Barber, and maybe that's
well. I mean, like he won the first 2 races of the year, didn't he? And then it was kind of when he had 3 in 4 and 4 in 5 and 5 in 6. I think after that it was kind of just like, yeah, job done.
Yeah, so I was a big fan of IndyCar. Trying to generate a bit of hype around it. I think it was a bit far-fetched. I think is probably a nice way of putting it. And as I said, we knew this was coming. We obviously knew it was coming, but that doesn't certainly take away from what has been a historical season from Alex Palou. It's one of the all-time great modern seasons, and IndyCar history is obviously very confusing and it goes back a long time. And the sport in the 70s was very different to what it is now. And you'd have people like AJ Foyt, Alonso dominate, and you don't get that anymore. And to see somebody dominating the fashion that Palou has this season is something we probably will not see for a very, very long time. To take 8 victories in 15 races, I mean, he's still taken over half the races this year. He quite possibly, that number will go under the half when we leave Nashville, but doesn't take away 8 wins in a season. It's remarkable. You know, you look at numbers of 4 or 5 and you're like, whoa. And he's got 8. It's unbelievable. His lowest finish on a road course was actually at Portland. I mean, a very pitiful third. Just finished on the podium in every single road course race this season. And he's just been a class apart from the field. His qualifying has been tremendous compared to what has been in previous seasons. His race pace is continually spellbinding against his opposition. And although people were able to figure out in Portland, but in the long run, people just do not know what to do to beat this guy, because he is just so unbelievable. And I look back at our preseason prediction and I just feel a bit stupid. I'm like, why did we doubt the guy who won 3 out of the last 4 titles, who was only getting better in ovals, and as Chip Ganassi said at the start of the season, he's only getting better. So like, looking back at it, I think especially because of who we predicted, I feel like a bit of an idiot. It's like it should have been a shoo-in. And like, you know, any doubts maybe anybody had, and obviously we had doubts because we didn't think he'd be the champion for whatever reason. And he's just proved to anybody who did doubt his ability in any category that, you know, this is no fluke. He is the best of the best. And only Scott Dixon and AJ Foyt now have more championships than this guy, and he's only 28. You know, if he stays in the sport for another 10, 15 years, that number's going to only increase and increase and increase. And it's been an incredible season for Palou. And obviously a very, very worthy champion, and a really historical season, which, like, I understand the side of, look, it's been boring and one guy's dominating it, but you have to appreciate greatness whilst you see it. And as I said, this is a season that we will not see for a very, very long time, unless he does it again next season, which is probably quite possible.
Yeah, I mean, he's the youngest 4-time champion now, and I think the most incredible thing really is, like, he's done this in only 5 years in a competitive seat. He's only been in IndyCar for 6 years. He's making history just in complete record time. And I mean, looking back to preseason predictions, I don't know whether it was kind of more out of, we just wanted to go for some variation, because I think kind
it was optimism, wasn't it, more than anything else.
And that's nothing against Palou. I think it feels boring to predict the last champion, but I've already been kind of thinking about next season, and I'm just like, how is anyone going to beat this guy? Like, he is just so far ahead of anyone. I mean, I know O'Ward obviously had his mechanical, but it's 151 points now with 2 races remaining. I mean, he's just outclassed the field. Nobody has been able to consistently challenge him. You know, it was Kirkwood start of the year. It's been Pato latterly. There's been hints of Dixon, but no one's taken it to him consistently. I mean, something that's stuck out to me, and it stuck out to me when we interviewed him as well, is like, he doesn't actually care that much about records. He actually just genuinely loves doing this and loves driving and the kind of the art of it and working with the team. And he just lets the records come with that. And the records do indeed kind of naturally come with that, rather than piling pressure on himself, wanting to be like, oh, I want to have the most championships or whatever. He's just content and loving and enjoying driving, and I love that from him. And he's really appreciating the success that he's having. Yeah, we're gonna have so much time to really unpick this season of Palou's, and it's kind of a case of what more can you say about the guy, but maybe that statement alone says it all, because I mean, he's just always there. Like, he is always there for us to, feels like every week we're having a discussion about how special the year is, and that just speaks to this rarity that we've had this year of the same guy dominating in what is regarded as the most competitive era of IndyCar racing. And that's what just makes this kind of historic season even more special. I feel that he's doing this in this era where it is, I mean, drivers speak about how competitive it is, and I've said it so many times that IndyCar's known for being predictable. IndyCar's known for being unpredictable, but Palou is kind of making it predictable. He's bringing this sense of inevitability. And I mean, really, it's been a pleasure to witness. Like, it's honestly been an honor to cover this, because it is the sort of thing you'll look back on in decades. And as you say, Dan, people are quick to dismiss dominance in sport. Like, thinking there's similar going on in cycling at the moment. And it's just, everyone always complains, oh, it's boring. But Will Buxton put it so well when he came on the pod. Like, this is the sort of thing that in a few decades' time, you will be looking back on and marveling in the fact that you witnessed this greatness. It's like, I mean, I'm a big tennis fan, and I feel so honoured that I got to see Nadal, Federer, Djokovic all in their pomp, and we're getting to see Palou in his pomp here. And yeah, it's just amazing. And I mean, putting it into context, he won the championship last year with 2 wins, and he won it with 5 wins in 23, and that was like some all-time great year in IndyCar. But I think he's just taken it to such a level in 25 that this is like one of the all-time great sporting seasons. Like even in sport, this level of dominance is so rare, which is why, again, you've just got to appreciate it. I mean, it's pretty unheard of clinching with 2 races to spare. It's not been done for, I think it was 23 years. So, I mean, it's I don't know how many times it's been done in history. I mean, it would take a long while to try and figure that out. But yeah, very impressive. And for him to be at this point, 28 years old, I mean, he might be only a quarter through his career. Like, what is the ceiling? Because Chip said again that he's only scratching the surface. And I mean, surely next year you've got to think he's going to be the favourite. If he wins the championship next year, he'll become only the second driver to win 4 on the trot after Bourdais. I mean, he's already only one of 4 to win 3 on the trot, or at least 3 on the bounce. And I mean, it's just records tumbling constantly. Like, he's on 11 podiums for the year now. If he gets another podium in the last 2 races, he'll become one of only 5 drivers to have 12 podiums in a single season. It's just like, the more you dig, the more kind of incredible things that you find. And yeah, just got to take a step back, haven't you, and say this is pretty damn special.
Okay, so how many titles will Palou have by the time he retires?
I mean, it's a cruel question. Like, I mean,
Dixon wasn't getting championships until he was in his 30s in most cases. He got a championship when he was 30, so his second championship, so his third championship when he was 33, fourth when he was 35, sixth when he was 38, and fourth, sorry, I've done the maths here. But anyway, he won a championship at 33, 35, 38, and 40 years old. So he wasn't a serial winner until well before the age, well after the age Palou is now.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. It's so rare. Like, I mean, Palou is. I mean, there's only 6 drivers who've won 4 or more championships now, including Palou. Shows how rare that is. I mean, I think he could win 10 championships easily.
So when we come back to this on episode 1268 of the Live from IndyCar podcast, 10 is your official prediction.
I mean, I think he could reach 10. I think he could get more than 10, to be honest.
I can't say that.
I'll say 10. I'll say 10.
Okay, well, I'll go 11 to one up here.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's unrealistic, because you look at this field and, like, O'Ward's having a great season, and you've got drivers like Kirkwood's showing so much potential. You've got...
Well, yeah, he was. He's had a bad run, though.
Yeah, and you've got Herter, who has these heights, but nobody's at all consistently anywhere close, really, to Palou's level. Like...
Yeah, I can see O'Ward having the option, I think. And maybe... Maybe as well.
Yeah, maybe there's going to be a year. I mean, there will be a year where Palou has some bad luck.
Okay, let's touch on his title rival from last year, Will Power. There was definitely no title rival for Palou this year, but Will Power obviously won in Portland to finally claim Penske's first victory of the season. It was a 15-race winless streak until this point. They were edging very close to their first winless season since the turn of the millennium. So, big relief there. I think for a lot of people involved, Power especially, but I think obviously Roger Penske and the like. And so it was one of those weird ones, but I didn't really... It felt like Power was just there for a while, and suddenly Power's leading, he's going to win. I don't really quite know. I guess it's one of those where you have an alternate strategy and a strategy and an alternate strategy, and Power's just on the right one. And
yeah, I mean, I think how he got there, I mean, there was, I think, we had 3 pretty early cautions. Under that third was when you had O'Ward and Rosenqvist had been leading the race. They both started on the alternates. But O'Ward and Rosenqvist were the 2 at the front at that point. They both started on the alternates, as did Power. I think they were the only 3 actually in the top 9 who did start on the alternates, but they both dove off, and Power did a super long stint on the alternates. And I mean, his pace was pretty ridiculous for quite a long time. Like, he had a 20-second lead on Palou at one point. And I mean, Palou did a very good job to claw that back. Obviously, a bit of help from back markers latterly. But yeah, I feel that's where Power really made hay, as the others kind of stopped early, ended up getting pretty stuck in traffic, and Power just kept those alternates alive in pretty impressive fashion. That's kind of where I feel like he pulled that gap.
And then, yeah, we sort of got to the lead and really looked comfortable from there. All the stops are absolutely on the money. Power drove excellently. I mean, he won important last year, so he defended his race victory from last season and was under a bit of pressure from both Lundgaard and Palou at the end, and obviously with lap traffic in the mix as well. And just drove like a veteran does. Always used all his years of experience to fend them off. And it never felt like they'd get Power. It felt like Power, had something in the tank. We needed to use it. And yeah, a big win for Penske, and obviously a big win for Power. His contract status is still completely unknown. You feel like this sort of has to be you feel like this has to be the moment where, if he's going to secure his future, this has to be it. Like, I'm not sure what more Power could do to convince Penske officials that he needs another season. Like, you probably say he's comfortably been the best Penske this season. It feels like he's been the most consistent. He's the first Penske driver to get a win this season. And yeah, as I said, I feel like he's comfortably been the best driver this season, which makes it seem I know the broadcast one has passed quite a lot, but it makes it so ludicrous that he's the one whose seat's in danger for next year. And, Malukas has shown flashes this year. He obviously had a good stretch in the summer, but I don't see why somebody with 4 top 10s across the course of a season should be replacing Power at Penske, especially with Power's experience and the fact he's driving the best of anybody in that team. Why his future's still in the air is a mystery, and I think it's probably a mystery to him as much as it is anybody else. So, I mean, alongside maybe that Indy 500, that's obviously going to be the biggest win of his career, but this is one of the biggest wins of Power's career. It feels like the one which has to see the future if he's going to be at Penske next season. And to be honest, I'm pretty glad he has won a race, because I want to see him at Penske again next season, because I think he deserves to be there.
Yeah, I mean, he's 6th in points despite having had 4 DNFs this season. I mean, he had that brutal stretch through kind of June, July, where I think he had 3 DNFs because of mechanical issues in 5 races, which was just ridiculous. And kind of outside of that, he's had a couple of more errant results, but otherwise he's been kind of consistently top 5, 6, 7, really. And I mean, this is he had 2 podiums, I think, before this. This was... Yeah, it feels like he deserved it, to be honest. I think he has been driving really well, and obviously he's got his 2 teammates locked down in long-term deals while he's here. And I mean, he's the only guy really in this 5-year era of Ganassi Palou that's taken the fight to Palou, really. Like, he was the guy who took the fight to him last year. I know he ended up finishing 4th, but he was the contender, really. Obviously got the title in 22, the only driver to break that, the only driver to beat Palou while he's been at Ganassi. So that's proof of what Power himself has said, that he still feels like he's as good as ever. And I think it cannot be understated what an impressive drive this was in the face of all of the uncertainty that he has off track. Like, it was dominant. It was a properly authoritative performance, I thought. And it's just, I really feel for him, because he's in this situation where he doesn't know if that's his last win for the team. I mean, in the worst situation, if it's his last win ever, because he doesn't know what his future is going to hold. But I mean, you got to think, how could it be his last win for Penske? I mean, when he is so comfortably their lead guy, and when Malukas is, don't get me wrong, I think Malukas is going to be Penske material, but I just don't quite think that is the case yet. I think he's still raw and could do with another year of development in that Foyt camp, because I mean, this is still only Malukas' 3rd full year in IndyCar. Next year will only be his 4th full season, and this isn't like other times where Penske have moved on from their legends, where they've kind of been waning forces in many ways. Power is still very, very much at the top of his game, but at the same time, you've got to think, if he was going to stay, would that not have been sorted already? Would it not have been signed already? That's my feeling anyway. Complete speculation. But yeah, I got the sense. I think Power said as much as well before the weekend, that he is starting to get a bit frustrated by it. It's only natural. He wants to know what he's doing next year. He was absolutely saying, I'm as quick as ever. I'm not slowing down. I'm getting quicker. And genuinely, I think there's hard evidence to back that up, that he is driving as well as he has done. And I mean, I think the strongest statement of all was he said, if you're waiting on me to know if I'm good enough, I don't know what you're thinking. Just go back to last year and you will effing know. And I think that really was kind of his real champion mentality shining, because I mean, I would say, to be fair, there is evidence that teams are possibly waiting for him, because, I mean, there's been nothing happening in this driver market silly season. And that does suggest the cork in the bottle is because teams are waiting to see what Power does. But, I mean, he won 3 races last season. He finished runner-up.
That is so weird to think about. Usually at this point, you've got pretty much half the signings done. And we haven't had anything, like nothing. Well,
that's what happens when you have such a, I mean, he's not free agent technically yet, but when you have the prospects of Will Power will be a free agent in a few weeks, but he can't speak to anyone until past the 31st of August as well, which is why I think it's probably getting a bit frustrating, because, I mean, he's pretty helpless in this situation, really. One thing that was interesting in the press conference, he threw a bit of a cat among the pigeons by saying, what if it's my decision? Which I thought was interesting. Maybe to delve into that, could he mean that, okay, maybe there's a 1-year offer on the table, but maybe he wants multi-year, because, okay, he's going to turn 45 at the start of next season, but he's, again, not slowing down particularly. He's pretty age-defying. He's kind of Fernando Alonso-esque.
The problem Power's got is there's not many good available seats. You could go to Voigt, but you feel like they need funding, so they need to drop Ferrucci effectively to accommodate Power, is the way you probably see that. Then you've got maybe an RLL seat, but if I was Power, I don't think RLL is where I'd probably want to end my career. You've got Hunkos, but the package isn't there, and then it's there's not much else really. A coin, but
part of the thing is as well, Andretti, I think Rob Edwards came out and said that Marcus Ericsson's going to be there next year, because Andretti would have felt the obvious one. The intangibles as well. I feel like Power has been a bit of a leader at times from what we've seen from the outside in this tough year. The press conference at Iowa when Newgarden finished second and was really kind of downbeat, really snappy, concise in his answers, and Power just gave that real moment of levity where he basically just mocked Newgarden a little bit for giving us short answers, and got a bit of a smile out of him when he seemed genuinely pretty downbeat, pretty sad. And that sort of thing just makes me feel like this guy's the glue in this team as well. And not only are you losing, I mean, the driver who has been your best on track this year, you're losing a leader as well. And I feel like all that brings Power to that Power brings to the table, you'd be losing a lot by fast tracking a guy who's still, Malukas is 22, 23 years old still. So I think you've just got to be patient in this situation, because Malukas is going to end up at Penske, but I don't want them to ruin his career as well by fast tracking him too early, lumping loads of pressure on him. But I mean, ultimately, if this is the end for Power at Penske, pretty sad way for the driver who has more wins than anyone in IndyCar for Roger Penske to leave. I would say that.
Lap traffic was on the talking points late on, so we got Will Power's thoughts on whether he'd like to see a blue flag rule implemented in IndyCar. And as we said, he is the only person to beat Alex Palou over the course of a season since Palou joined Ganassi. So here's what he thinks you need to do to beat Alex Palou over the course of a season. Congratulations, Will, on the victory today. Obviously, you kind of get held up a little bit by the lap cars when trying to overtake them. Maybe lost some time there. Since the hybrids come in, it feels like maybe it's a bit more difficult to overtake lap runners. So would you be in favour of a blue flag rule being in place, or are you happy with sort of how it is?
Yeah, we've talked about that for a long time. It's been, to me, very frustrating when you're trying to win a race, and you have to use a lot of push to pass to get around, a car that's going to go a lap down. I mean, I actually got blocked by Kiffin Simpson. He actually moved over, blocked me, squeezed me, used a full pull of push to pass to get around that guy. Simply because the rule is he's allowed to do that. And he's got a team car one back from me trying to win the race. So when Malukas let me go, I said, okay, tell him to hold them up if we're going to play this game. I don't like it. I think we should just fight it out. But I think it's probably because they don't have enough people in race control to be able to monitor when a car because once you get a blue flag, I mean, that guy's got to get a blue flag for everyone in the field as they come up to him. So I think it's difficult from that standpoint, but it is frustrating if you're a leader, but if you're sitting third, it's kind of nice because you might have another shot. So yeah, I can see from a fan's perspective, it probably made the race more exciting that you had a lot of pressure. So you think of it a few different perspectives there.
And obviously, Alex won his 4th championship today. And since he's joined Ganassi, you're the only person other than him to win a championship. So what does it take to beat Alex over the course of a season? And do you think anybody will be able to do it in the near future?
Yeah, I think you have to have a very close look at what he's doing. And, I think Ganassi is certainly performing at a very high level right now. Palou is just probably the most impressive guy I've seen come along in a long time. In my career, actually, a complete driver who has qualifying pace, but then he's just so good at walking the tightrope of risk versus reward in racecraft, and then his race pace. He's absolutely a full package, and he's going to be, a very, very tough guy to beat. Very tough.
Okay, let's go on to Arrow McLaren as Christian Lundgaard finished second behind Power and ahead of Palou in third. And a wider point in Arrow McLaren, this was a terrible weekend from last year. I think the highest finishing car was outside the top 10, and they were completely devoid of pace. And there seems to be a bit of a theme where Arrow McLaren are turning up week in, week out. And Toronto, you didn't expect to be quick, they won. Laguna hasn't been a fantastic place for them. Again, they were pretty competitive there as well. And there's been a few places like that this year where they haven't expected to be competitive, and they have been, which is a huge encouragement. I think what really let Arrow McLaren down in the last few years is that you wouldn't quite know what to expect from them each race. And now you feel like you've got a bit of every weekend they're a podium contender. Like, Lundgaard this season, 6 podiums. Award this season, 6 podiums. 12 podiums for 15 races. It's an excellent return. It's much higher than we've seen from the team in previous seasons. And so they took a 1-2 again in qualifying. Second time they've done this season. Obviously, Lundgaard started down to 7th due to an engine penalty. Award inheriting that pole. Obviously, it was a bit unfortunate for Award. Had an issue which basically put him 10 laps down and obviously ended the championship right there. So that was a huge shame. Which, again, it feels like these sort of problems have been a lot more common in previous years, again, which shows maybe they're going in slightly the right direction, that his problems are less common. So I think overall, a good weekend again for McLaren. I think previous touch on Lundgaard again, because obviously I feel like probably it's his best weekend there in McLaren colours. It feels like he probably would have won the race had he not had that penalty for the engine change. It's his 6th podium of the season, which is now more than both Rossi and Rosenqvist got combined at Arrow McLaren in their 5 total seasons in the team.
He's done it in 15 races. What they achieved combined in 5 seasons, he's done in 15 races, which is pretty remarkable.
And road course wise, he's taken a podium at 5 of the 7 or 8 road courses of the season. Like, that is a fantastic turnaround. Only times he didn't start on the podium were the Indy, GP, and Road America. So fantastic return for Lundgaard. He's really proved the right decision for McLaren this season, and proved to be some signing. And I feel a bit of a shame for him because he couldn't really celebrate his pole because he wasn't really starting from the pole, and then he definitely had the pace to win. And he realistically probably won't win at either Milwaukee or Nashville unless something extraordinary happens, which is a bit of a shame because it feels like Lundgaard probably deserves a victory this season, but he's proved more than enough compared to what we expected of him pre-season. And again, just another shining performance, and he continues to. I know I say this every week, but I change my mind on this topic every week. But he continues to sort of have a bit of an upper edge on O'Ward, generally, at least on road courses this season. So maybe not the streets, but on the road courses, it certainly feels like he does. Well, I say that, but Lundgaard's been generally better on street courses too, bar Toronto. So, another fantastic weekend for Lundgaard. Another good weekend for McLaren. I think Siegel was a bit disappointing comparatively, but otherwise, continue to head in the right direction and continue to give you hope. Maybe they are the team. If anybody's going to take it to Palou, who will be the people to do it.
Yeah, I mean, O'Ward actually spoke I think it was on Saturday, about that internal competition and how, I mean, I get the impression he really felt like he actually needed that, and that's really helped him step up to this other level. And those two genuinely have really been kind of propelling each other on this year. I mean, they obviously started the road courses this season with a front row lockout, the first that the team's actually ever got, and they've ended that road course, well, the 7th and final road course race of the season with another qualifying one too. Obviously, O'Ward getting the upper hand, Thermal, Lundgaard getting the upper hand, Portland, and yeah, I guess it really just speaks to the fact that they now finally do really consistently have two guys that are fighting, which is something the team has always longed for and has always been missing. And I mean, it really looks now like Lundgaard will indeed finish top 5 in the championship. The best that any driver that's not O'Ward for the team has finished in points is Rosenqvist in 8th, I believe. So speaks a lot to the upturn that team has had. And I think it's a really, really important point to make that, you know, obviously Toronto, they've, you know, O'Ward saying that was his worst track, they went and won. Portland was miserable last year. They were really scratching their heads, didn't really know where they'd gone wrong. I mean, Rossi was their best qualifier in like 17th or 18th. Though Ward was down in like 23rd, I think, if memory serves correctly. So it was miserable. A year later, they're on the front row. They're both, well, not actually on the front row, but at least they were 1-2 in qualifying. And it feels like they're getting better at solving problems. And I said this after Laguna, like whether that's after a bad practice one, they're managing to turn things around, or bigger picture after a bad race at a certain track the year prior, they're managing to find the solutions and turn things around. So yeah, when we say like who's going to take the fight to Palou, you mentioned it a bit earlier, like Lundgaard could be the guy. Like, yeah,
the ovals are just,
the ovals are like these last two races feel really big for him, like, because again, it's kind of just felt like, I mean, he's been on a par really with Siegel, if not behind, as the kind of third guy in the team on ovals. So it's going to be pretty big and pretty telling couple of rounds on two very different types of oval. I know obviously he went a little bit insane in Toronto and that was overstepping the mark a bit, but for the most part, like, he's got this really nice kind of calculated aggression. We saw it at Laguna Seca in his battle with Herta as well. So really like the way he drives. And yeah, O'Ward definitely has someone who's going to take this fight to him, I think, in years to come.
Well, should we continue this topic of Christians overstepping the mark?
Yeah, I've got a rant about this.
Well, if you don't know what we're referring to, it's the newest addition to the hate cauldron of Christian Rasmussen and Conor Daly. And I feel like this whole Rasmussen aggressive thing, like, the broadcasters played on it a bit too much. Like, oh, excited to watch because he's aggressive, but it's like there was going to be a point somebody was just going to say no to how aggressive he is, and there would be a major accident. And that time has come. He does feel Rasmussen does overstep the mark at times. I know he gets away with it most of the time, but IndyCar racing isn't a case of I'm going down the inside, you better yield or crash. It's not. It doesn't work like that. And the first incident was obviously him shoving off Daly at turn 7 as well as himself. And then they obviously had a bit of a kerfuffle at turn 1 caused by Daly. And then they had another incident on the same lap going into turn 10 where Rasmussen was just being a complete moron on the inside. And you felt it was coming, but it wasn't good on either of them. Daly does have to take some blame for his side of it at turn 1, but it's just idiotic, just so stupid, like just so over the mark. I know you'll have a rant about penalties, so I'll pick that up briefly after you mention it, but it felt like this was coming, and it's just like, don't use your car as a tool to take somebody else out. It's not what anybody wants to see, and it's just idiotic, and it sets a precedent if you don't penalise it.
The first move from Rasmussen where he has literally just driven Daly off the road, like, I mean, to be fair, I think he took responsibility for that, said that, you know, I think the steering wheel came out of his hand or something, but that reminded me of Ferrucci, not in a good way. So yeah, that was yeah, I mean, he was just too aggressive. And Daly then, I mean, obviously adrenaline's running so high during a race, but Daly clearly saw the red mist descend after that, and he lost his head then going into turn one. It was a lunge into kind of turn one, turn two, initiated more contact with Rasmussen. Didn't love to see that either, to be honest, and it kind of felt, we didn't see the rest of the lap really, but they kept kind of scrapping away, and got to turn 10, and it was Daly's corner. It was it was Daly's corner. There was an argument that maybe he could have left Rasmussen a bit more space, but I don't really think so. And it was ultimately Rasmussen initiated that contact, and it was at a very, very fast portion of the track. And no matter if Rasmussen was squeezed a little bit or not, he did not take that corner naturally. He got to the apex and just drove straight into Daly. That's what it looked like anyway. And Daly properly really hurtled towards the tyres, and thankfully didn't get airborne before he hit the tyres, but the car lifted quite aggressively off the ground when he made that contact. It was a very big impact. I know he's posted on Instagram today as we record on Monday saying that he's fine, a little bit sore though. I just think that was the first time, well, maybe not the first time Rasmussen overstepped the mark, but the first time he's overstepped the mark with consequence. And as you say, someone hasn't really yielded for him. And I think it's bordered on an issue for a while, that aggression. And I think after that, he's got some lessons to learn about keeping himself under control a little bit more. I know Daly made his thoughts pretty clear with quite a pointed tweet as soon as he got back to his phone, I think, after being cleared by medical. And his tweet said, "Purposely wrecking someone in a 150-mile-per-hour corner is just pure insanity. That's not racing. It's inexcusable. The driving standards for some are a joke right now. That means you at Christian R_DK." And can't really argue with that. And this is where we get onto kind of the penalty side of it. And I think you've got to take possible instances of contact being initiated intentionally very, very seriously. So it absolutely blew my mind when, it was confusing as the race went on, and you hadn't heard anything about a penalty. And when it finally came to light that there was no further action, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It doesn't matter if they're both at it. Penalise Rasmussen now. Rasmussen should have been penalised for forcing Daly off the track in the first place. Daly should have been penalised for then using his car as a weapon into turn one with that lunge. He's out of the race. Maybe that's his penalty further on in the lap, but give him a grid drop for the next race. They did that with Kevin Simpson for Portland after his contact with Rosenqvist early on at Laguna. And then obviously Rasmussen, they penalised Simpson for avoidable contact for spinning Foster early in the race. Dixon then spun Newgarden later on. He got an avoidable contact penalty. But the biggest of all, they just let it slide. I don't care if it's kind of the argument, even if it wasn't intentional, you still penalise him. He's just completely destroyed another guy.
Don't you? Not consequence, penalise an offence. Doesn't matter if it's deliberate or not.
It's still avoidable contact.
Yeah.
And if it's deliberate, then your penalty's more severe.
Have you seen the Herter incident?
I've seen there was a Herter one. There was also a bit of a kerfuffle with Newgarden as well, where he's kind of
she should have got penalised for the Herter one as well.
Yeah, so there were probably, there's probably more throughout the race, to be honest, if these are surfacing. There was one with Newgarden, again, similar to Herter, coming onto the back stretch, kind of just left him no space. And that is a fast area of the track covered by concrete pretty much on two sides. But it was pretty obvious in that whole exchange from both guys. Obviously, Rasmussen more severely in the end, but both guys were using their cars as weapons. And that cannot be let slide. That is serious. The more I think about it, the more it's really making my head spin that Simpson and Dixon were both penalised for their little kerfuffles in turn two. And they literally let this whole thing slide. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I can't believe it. And genuinely, the only thing I can think of is that they were saying okay, they're both going at it. They're both kind of causing this and leading up to it. But that's not right either. As I say, if that's the case, just penalise both of them. Don't just not penalise them. Sets the wrong precedent. But the other point I wanted to make, I thought the radio message that Rasmussen got after the crash from whoever was on his radio from Ed Carpenter Racing, quite frankly, was a disgrace. And I hope I'm not overblowing that or overstating it, but I think the team have to look at themselves, because after that's happened, Rasmussen was radioed from the team saying he ran out of talent there, relating to Daly, after Rasmussen had clearly driven into him and caused the whole thing. And after a big crash, that's really not a good look. Like, Daly has gone at about 150 miles per hour, fired into the tyre barrier. His car's lifted airborne. The point of the radio message, like, you probably don't know if the guy's okay, really. And you're saying, like, he ran out of talent rather than, having a little bit of sympathy for a guy who's just had a massive crash. I thought it was a terrible look. I thought it was incredibly distasteful. The complete lack of empathy from Daly's former team, no less. Like, I know they didn't end on good terms, but I don't care if there's bad blood. This was absolutely classless, I thought. Like, just a terrible reflection. A terrible reflection. Like, I did not like that one bit.
Okay, let's quickly touch on a collective of Graham Rahal, Alexander Rossi, and Callum Ilott, who finished 4th, 5th, and 6th, respectively. Rahal from 22nd on the grid, Ilott from 24th on the grid, which I believe are the best, each of the best results this season. Obviously, Ilott equals his result at Laguna Seca last time out, but sort of 3. It felt quite under the radar performances to bring home a very, very strong result, which was really good to see. I mean, Rahal made fantastic progress. I mean, him and Ilott pitted fairly early on, which really helped them elevate up the order. Rossi obviously qualified quite well, was in 7th and cycled up to 6th due to Lingard's penalty. So 3 really, really strong days there for 3 people I think quite need them. It's been a difficult season, I think, for all 3 of them for various separate reasons. So I think all 3 of them a little bit of momentum, a little bit of confidence to end the season. I mean, Rossi has, I think, had a certain amount of top 5s every season he'd been in the sport, so that streak was at risk of ending. I think Rahal probably was at a similar streak, where they might not have got one last season. So, yeah, good couple of days there for those 3.
I mean, I've not dug into the stats, but that's got to be one of ECR's best road course results in quite a while, to be honest. And funny old year for Rossi. Like, he started the year really well, had some pretty strong results, like a few top 10s in the first few rounds, and then things just tailed off. Like, I feel like there was part of that was performance, part of it was kind of had quite a bit of bad luck. So, yeah, he needed this result. Like, the pace was there, and they've struggled a bit on road courses, I feel like, ECR this year, and yeah, needed that. And obviously they're going to ovals now, which is, they've been their strong suit, especially Rasmussen, who's been excelling even more so.
First top 10 since Detroit for Rossi.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. I know that it's only 2 months ago, but in the scheme of the IndyCar season, that's like the bulk of the season. Then Rahal, Ilott, very similar drives coming from further down the order, and I guess Rahal ended up finishing 6th, didn't he, in the Indy GP? And I think this was big for RLL because a lot of the time this season, when there's kind of been a weakness, it's been, okay, we've been rapid on a Saturday, but the execution's not been there on the Sunday, or the race pace hasn't been there on a Sunday, and they've just messed up Sundays, basically. But it was the inverse this weekend, where bizarrely the team were actually not very quick on Saturday. And
one time we predict them in the far 6.
Yeah, Ilott. I mean, Prema are just on a roll now. Like, they've not necessarily figured things out in qualifying. Like, he started down in 24th again, but once again just made monumental gains on race day. Prema getting everything right, not making mistakes in the pits, making the strategy correct, and Ilott is really proving again why he was this highly touted driver at the point that everything fell apart with JHR at the end of 2023.
ECR's best road course finish since Mid-Ohio 2022.
Wow, so that's a long time ago. I also must mention on Di Francesco, I mean, he got some beef with McLaughlin again in, I think it was practice, wasn't it? McLaughlin dealt two birds in one lap. I think it was Di Francesco was blocked him into turn 1, and then I think it was Ferrucci later in the lap, so he was having a good time in practice. McLaughlin dishing out the good old middle fingers.
Okay, we'll go over the running order, which is Power, Lungard, Palou, your podium, Rahal, Rossi, and Ilott. McLaughlin in 7th. It's one of McLaughlin's better days this season, which speaks to how difficult of a season it's been. P8, say it with me.
Strong ability. I don't know how in sync that will actually sound when it comes through, but enjoy that, listeners.
There is nothing to say. He qualified 8th and finished 8th. We didn't see any of them. He was
solid.
He's just there. His teammate, Felix Rosenqvist, is continuing a really annoying trend of qualifying superbly and just like not converting them. It's just like a little annoying trend you've had since he's joined the team. So P9 in the end, because he was running on a very similar pace to Lundgaard for a long time of the race.
I think, I mean, Lundgaard was, I don't know whether Lundgaard was on a slightly different strategy. But obviously, Rosenqvist came in under that caution when O'Ward pitted, and I think ultimately probably just lost so much time being put into traffic there. As obviously, as I said, Powell made those major gains out front where he was just completely dropping Palou. The one time this year, Palou's not managed to make hay on the blacks. Who were, that was interesting. But yeah, I think Rosenqvist just ended. I think he just got screwed by traffic. Really, just got stuck mid-pack, and it wasn't quite the right strategy to be on because kept him on the power strategy. He would have been right there. I would have said like. I mean, obviously, with O'Ward's mechanical, he would have inherited the lead. So, what could have been?
P10 was Cole and Herta. Briefly touched on Andretti as a whole because there was a big thing about that. They were the only team to test it prior to the race, and they had a pretty awful weekend. Completely off the pace. Qualified. Herta qualified 13th. Ericsson wasn't too bad in 10th. Well, to be fair, they got penalties. They actually qualified in 11th, 16th, and 20th respectively, and then Herta was top finisher in 10th, with both Kirkwood and Ericsson a lap down. So considering they tested them quite happy with the test, that was a pretty disastrous day for Andretti all round, and they've got a bit of the Arrow McLaren inconsistency. You don't know what you're going to expect from Andretti one weekend, which is a shame because I mean with Kirkwood we could stop raving about him in the first 7-8 races of the season. And now he's got one top 10 in the last 5 races. So a terrible stretch. I mean, not just for Kirkwood. I mean, to be fair, Herta's not been too bad recently. But yeah, just off the pace.
Slow. They were slow. Andretti was slow. And having tested, pretty bad that. They were anonymous. Small wins for Ericsson, out qualifying both his teammates they all fell in the same group, which I guess it's never ideal, but Ericsson out qualifying them both. Small wins in this season of, I mean, what is he? He's still 20th in points, isn't he? That's why, it's kind of a surprise that they've come out in such staunch support of him.
Small wins and ends up 22nd.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I don't know what happened there. He must have been screwed by strategy.
Ericsson has finished outside the top 20 in 8 races this season. So in over half the races, the guy who we would previously were very vocal about how consistent he was has now finished outside the top 20.
That's astonishing.
The majority of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Herta and Kirk were just an anonymous race, anonymous weekend, really. And I feel like that's become a little bit of a theme, especially on the Kirkwood side in this kind of closing stretch of the season, which got a bit to figure out there. I mean, he said on Friday, I think it was, that July was just a disaster, really.
Dixon 11th, he obviously got penalised for contact with Newgarden, which relegated him several spots ahead of Rasmussen to 12th. Foster was 13th ahead of actually a good day for Robin 14th. That might actually be his best career run in a road course. I'd have to verify that, but let's verify that now, shall we? Is that his best run on a road course in his IndyCar career? It is.
Good shout.
So there we are. Nice day for Stingray Rob there. Then we had Robert Schwartzman, Nolan Siegel. A bit disappointed with Siegel, actually. He's shown
nowhere,
good.
Really.
Yeah, he's shown good on a couple of road courses this season, but it was really off the pace for his teammates. Again, I know he's always basically a rookie, isn't he? But he's going to tracks he's been to before, and he's just not really showing much. Then we had VK in 17th from Di Francesco and 18th from Lucas was 19th on the race Power 1. It's amusing.
Yeah, I mean, he lapped Malukas. I know there was a bit of because he got stuck behind Ericsson, of course, Power, and then after he finally dispatched Ericsson, got stuck behind Simpson, who was trying to hold him up so Palou could get past, and then he finally got past Simpson, and then when Power lapped Malukas, which was quite the crowning moment, obviously, of that win, he screams on the radio, tell him to hold him up, which was quite amusing. But yeah, I mean, Malukas has shown so much pace. I think just to focus in on Foyt for a moment, he's really outclassed Ferrucci at points this year. I think Ferrucci obviously had that real hot streak in the middle of the season where he was just getting constant top fives, got those podiums. But other than that, like, especially qualifying, Ferrucci's really struggled, and he's just not reached like those heights of last year. It's been so much more scruffy and unusual. And Malukas has been the guy, really. I mean, Ferrucci obviously missed that race, but that was his own doing with that crash in warm up at the end of the day. And Malukas, I mean, qualified fourth, qualified fifth, promoted to fourth. Obviously started alongside Power. Don't really know what happened in the race. Like, I think he was on the brink of the top 10. I think he must have had to come in for fuel at the end because he stopped 4 times while most stopped 3. So, yeah, a bit of a shame that. But he's still top 10 in points, albeit only 2 points behind Scott McLaughlin, who is still in 11th, or 2 points ahead of McLaughlin. But Ferrucci's down in 14th, and yeah, Malukas has a
third weekend in a row of a major incident for Santino Ferrucci.
Yeah, so, I mean that was a massive crash, actually. It was like an oval crash turning right, I described it as, because he just completely lost out the final corner. I mean, it's some massive damage into the concrete pit wall. Yeah, got a soundbite for you from David Malukas. The news that everyone's been wanting to hear. How is his Dorking Wanderers football manager save going? And a little bit on his aspirations to finish top 10 in the championship too. So here is David Malukas with the big bombshell news. Hi, Dave. Hi, David. First of all, you're currently top 10 in points, obviously. Where does that kind of weigh up against your pre-season targets? And is top 10 in points something that kind of really matters to you?
Yeah, of course it matters. We always want to be performing consistently. I think as of right now, that top 10 in the points is, I think somewhat on trajectory of what I expected. Beginning half of the season, thought it was going to be a bit more of a struggle bus, right? Trying to figure out the crew, figure out what I want with the car. And month of May was a really good turnaround for us. And from that point on, we've had a much better second half of this season. So yeah, I think we're going to keep continuing that. We got 3 more to go and try to maintain that top 10 of the points.
And we must know, how is your Dorking Wanderers football manager save going? We need the updates.
I finally got him to the championship not that long ago. So it took me a bit longer than I wanted to.
So then we had Carl Kirkwood in 20th, Kevin Simpson in 21st, as you said, got penalised early on for avoidable contact. Marcus Ericsson, Jacob Abel, Joseph Newgarden. I mean, I can't be bothered to speak about his luck again, but it's just horrendous, isn't it?
I'll make the point. Like, he was on the. I mean, he was probably 6th, 7th. I think he came out of the pits on cold tyres ahead of Dixon. And I mean, he was slow on the exit of turn 1, turn 2. It was a misjudgment from Dixon. I think it was classic Newgarden on cold tyres. It's obviously Dixon's fault, no doubt. But yeah, Newgarden was probably going to finish top 6, maybe top 5. Like, that would have been a decent day. Like, we've said so many times, like, we've had the full catalogue of issues out of his control, and here's another one, being spun by the greatest of all time and not being able to restart your car and falling a lap down when you were probably going to get some decent points. And here we are with 2 races remaining, and Joseph Newgarden is still 18th in the standings.
Behind Kevin Simpson. Imagine saying that 12 months ago.
Yeah, and I mean, Connor Daly is still only 19 points behind, and 2 very strong tracks coming up for him as well. I know 2 strong tracks for Newgarden, but Newgarden's car's probably going to blow up and something else. So
Vortex Fury is going to swallow him up.
Yeah, there's a tornado hit just for Newgarden.
And then we're going to end off with Pato Ward, Connor Daly, and Santino Ferrucci, whose problems we have already gone into. Now, let's go on to some unsung heroes. We've been struggling the last couple of weeks, but this week there is plenty to choose from. I feel like you've got to pick a 3. So which one are you going to go for?
Mind games. Which one are you going to go for? I'll go for Ilott. I think it's just very impressive, the upturn that Prema have had this latter part of the season. It feels like every weekend they're either bettering, or obviously now they're getting up towards the very front of the field, at least kind of equaling their best results. So kudos, chapeau.
One weird thing about Portland is that Graham Rahal always seems to be quite good there, doesn't he? He seems to actually be consistently quite good at Portland, so I'll give it to Rossi.
Actually, I'll make a point on RLL, actually, that I was going to make and forgot about. I don't think, and I think Rahal actually said this, they don't really know why they're good when they're good. And by the same token, like, I mean, this is a very Indy GP style circuit, which is why they've done well. But all of a sudden, like, this year they're really slow, and then they're really quick in the race. I can guarantee they actually don't know why they were slow or quick.
Oh yeah, I'll go for Rossi. I think it's been a general struggle. He qualified quite well. He didn't get there through miracle strategy. He just drove a good race. So we'll put him in there. Top 3 drivers of the weekend. Lundgaard, comfortable first for me. Second place, bit more open. I'd probably go Power and maybe third place O'Ward. Actually, no, third place Rossi.
Interesting. Oh, unsung hero in your best 3 drivers.
Yeah, go on.
Interesting. I'd go for Lundgaard, Power. Palou put in a heck of a drive to
He did also crush in qualifying.
But he had the issue in qualifying. It's a tough one, that. I'll probably go for O'Ward. I know obviously his race ended quite early, but I suppose he didn't get the pole, but I'm just impressed with kind of the level that he's performing at still, very consistently up front, successive front rows. Obviously after he's spoken a lot about how he's had to switch up his driving style quite a bit with the hybrid, so he seems to have figured something out.
Now we'll do this segment slightly earlier than we did last week because we lead on to our next segment. The command rating. Toddled, excellent. Before that is how you do a command. Not quite from the diaphragm, not quite the shell, but some good bit of humour. That was fantastic. So if you didn't see it, Toddle, who owns BitNile and this weird, we'd never quite understand what it is. BitNile and ROI, whatever it is, said it was like, you might have the exact thing, but something along the lines of read this VK, start your engine, everybody else wait a couple of laps. Good banter from Todd.
Yeah, I saw some people saying like that was like, joking. That was certainly a command. I quite enjoyed it, to be honest. I don't see why you can't throw in a bit of humour there. I know he's a bit of a contentious figure, Todd Holt, but yeah, I quite liked it. But I feel like I'm duty bound to give it a 10 because it's VK and I've got to keep the VK bit going. So 10 out of 10, Todd.
And I think that for me that might be I think that's quite amusing. That's going to go on the funny moments.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's a good point actually. Yeah, funny moments. I didn't have tons from this weekend.
No, neither did I.
It wasn't a particularly amusing weekend. I think McLaughlin's middle fingers were quite funny. Not like hilarious funny, but were amusing. Palou, after he had his incident in qualifying, said he was going looking for mushrooms. He always has very funny little things he says when something like that happens, which I thought was quite amusing. I don't know whether it's funny or concerning that Townsend Bell was touting a move from McLaughlin to NASCAR to join SVG to keep power in IndyCar with Penske or something.
To beat SVG.
To beat SVG.
It wasn't to join us, to beat SVG on road courses.
And like, a more serious point there, like, I don't think really on an IndyCar broadcast you should be saying one of your drivers should go and leave the series to go to NASCAR. It's doing IndyCar down a bit. So I don't even know whether that was funny or just like, what are you talking about?
Well, the other thing I don't like on the broadcast, this just comes up every couple of years, comparing the Turn 1-2 chicane in Portland to
Monaco.
The swimming pool chicane in Monaco. It's just not the same, is it?
I get the similarities. It's not the same scenery, but...
Not quite, is it?
Not doing down the scenery. Pretty nice scenery. You got the Mount Hood, the massive mountain.
It's not quite Monaco, is it?
No, it's different. Nice different. Let's put it that way. Yeah, I don't know what the funny moment is.
Monaco weird, do they? No. Adults command.
Yeah. God, you've put one of your unsung heroes on your podium, and you've put your command in the funny moment.
That's credit to Todd Hall, because who ever thought a command would be the funny moment?
I'll go for Palou's saying I went looking for mushrooms, just because Palou has a habit of saying some very interesting things. Like, he always says pea bananas if he's like referring to finishing down the order, which, I mean, he doesn't have to do that very often, does he? But yeah, found that quite funny.
Podium predictor tournament. Strong results this week, actually. Everyone scored, which it wasn't the case in Toronto. Laguna was a good week, actually, so this was a better week as well. So me and you went oddly similar, despite not knowing each other's. We both went for Palou, and then Power and Dixon. I put Power second, you put Power third, Dixon vice versa.
I feel like it was quite logical. Like,
it made sense, yeah.
Dixon keeps spawning into the podium on road courses. It has done a few times, and Power was the defending winner. I guess that's kind of...
And Palou's Palou.
And Palou's Palou, yeah. That's
So 3 for you, 2 for me. James went Palou Lungard Award, which is a pretty good shout. So he got 4 there. Tom Gamer went Award Palou Power, so that's 3. Morgan, similar name, went Lungard Palou Power, but I got 5. Just guessed the podium just in the wrong order. Franz went for Palou Award Kirk, which that's only 1. And Ivan went Award Power Herter. So standings wise, me and you, we've got a 5-point gap to the opposition. We're good at this. You lead me by 2 points, though.
Oh, 2 points. Jeez.
It's close. It's close. So I feel like everybody else is probably out of contention unless they have a perfect week.
Yeah, they needed me and Iowa last year.
Yeah, so it's close. It's very close. And in Fast 6, you really doubted me going for a double Arrow McLaren last week. The week before, you doubted me for going double Penske. So I need you to doubt me every week, please.
I don't doubt you. For what do we have in Milwaukee?
Yeah.
Well, if we have Milwaukee, by the way, Milwaukee's been underwater this weekend.
So just to remind you, I went for Palou. We both went for Palou. We both went for Rahal, oddly, and then we both went for Power, I think, didn't we?
Palou, Rahal, Power. Yep, they were on my list.
And then I went for Newgarden, Lungard Award.
And I went for Foster, Herter, Armstrong.
So you didn't have a very good run. So you only got Palou and Power, and I got Award and Lungard. So we say this every week, but we will eventually work this out. But it must be pretty close by now. You'll find out in Milwaukee ahead of the title decider.
Well, was that 4-2? Was that 4-2 to you?
4-2 to me. Good run out for me. Happy with that. So we were tied in points last year getting into Nashville, weren't we? Maybe you were ahead by 1 or something. It was very close.
It was close, yeah.
It was close. We'll see if it's this close this year. I mean, we're building up for quite the finale, the 2nd year in a row. So
Me v. you as well. Especially,
yes,
we don't. Oh yeah, it's always going to be me v. you in this one. Never mind. In the podium one though.
Yeah.
Me v. you too.
Yeah. Next week we can't do the predictor tournament for reasons you'll find out shortly. So we're going to do our Milwaukee ones. So we'll get back to you very shortly with our Fast 6 for Milwaukee. Okay, you kick us off because I always kick us off.
Joseph Newgarden.
Yeah, of course.
Will Power and Scott McLaughlin.
Yeah. No shocks there.
Pato Award.
Yep.
David Malukas.
Yes.
Alex Palou.
Yes. Oh, I was getting worried there. Felix Rosenqvist.
Okay. Nice.
I was considering Palou, but I went for Rosenqvist. If it was like the top for the first 5, they're always a bit of a shoe on ovals, and the last one's a bit of a lottery, especially short ovals.
Well, we don't. It's interesting that we actually don't know what the score is overall and who's leading because no one's making big gains this in Milwaukee.
No, that's very true. So,
we'll know for Nashville, and we'll know whether one of us has to go like super bold.
Well, but Nashville will do anonymously, which always makes it more fun as well. So,
yeah,
as long as it's within 6. I mean, not that any of us have ever got 6. We've got 5 before, but we've never got 6. So, we'll see. And the other news, I think, which came out quite a while ago, but due to our exclusive Leaders Look for us last week, firstly, I hope you enjoyed. And if you haven't listened to it already, it's well for listen. Lena speaks about his ambitions to return to the field next year and quite a lot of reflection, sort of maybe the hardships of sitting out as an IndyCar driver, watching him go on. But there's a lot of really interesting insights there from Lena's, which I think gives a perspective that you didn't expect. So it's definitely worth a listen if you haven't already. But during that week, we had the news that Fox's parent company have effectively taken control of a third of Penske Entertainment, who own the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and, of course, this series itself, which sort of reaffirms Fox's investment into IndyCar. And they've also extended their broadcast deal by what is believed to be another 3 years. So another sign of Fox's investment into IndyCar, and now it's a bit more concrete, taking ownership of the third of the governing body of the series and of Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and continue to make it seem like a long-term project, which is fantastic to see, and sort of reassurance that Fox is trying to take IndyCar to the levels that we all want it to be. So signs once again of an encouraging future for Fox and IndyCar, and you hope that there was criticism towards Penske Entertainment, maybe their promotion of certain events, maybe the funding that they were putting in, and you feel like Fox are sort of covering these holes that we had with Penske's leadership of the series. So some really encouraging signs there, and as I said, a reaffirmation of the belief that Fox have in the series and to growing IndyCar, which is great for everybody to see.
Yeah, I think it's a really big piece of news for the future of IndyCar and the possible kind of increased exposure it can get and the possible growth. That's ultimately the goal of this move. And I think it's good to see some delegation from Roger Penske and co. for kind of what feels like the first time. They've always been kind of resistant to this sort of external investment and power. So I think it's a welcome concession that from Roger Penske and his team. And yeah, I think it's big that, I mean, obviously they've now found a real trusted long-term broadcast partner, but one that also has a real vested interest in the success of the series, obviously now being part owners. And clearly they've already kind of forged a strong and pretty committed bond. Obviously that's extended now with this multi-year deal upon the existing multi-year deal. But yeah, I just thought it was worth digging into kind of the different areas of this investment. I think one of the things, or the first of kind of three aspects to what their goals are, is they want to kind of promote and build the kind of superstars and the profile of the drivers in the series. And I think there's a feeling that IndyCar as a whole, and particularly the drivers, are pretty under promoted. And I think Fox are keen to really bring more opportunities to really build the stars. And I mean, you look at F1, for instance, through Drive to Survive, a big part of the growth of F1 was that creating these relatable personalities and really introducing people to the drivers has really tapped into a different, younger audience. And Fox have done a great job at doing that already through some of the features they've done on race day, and obviously the adverts as well, which is a sign of the promotion that they are willing to do. And obviously, as I said, they have a more vested interest in IndyCar growing now, obviously with this new relationship. And yeah, I think that's kind of been the biggest shortcoming of IndyCar, is their marketing and promotion. And Fox coming in as obviously masters of that, you would think, and hopefully they can really enhance and create a bit more of a USP. The other aspect was, or another aspect was, the intention to create entertainment events, as they described it. Obviously, Arlington's an early example of that, but it looks like they really want to help IndyCar's goal to bring the series to people. And, you know, IndyCar's lacked that sort of tentpole event, as you would describe it. You know, outside the Indy 500, outside of Long Beach, I guess, is the other one. And there's really a chance for Fox to take the reins on promoting this sort of event and building these kind of festival-like environments that maybe attract more people, because it's not simply a race. The other aspects of it, which is kind of a bit more vague, was kind of improving their digital strategy, the immersive content they said, but I think really tapping into, you know, a younger audience again with an online presence is something that Fox can, well, they're already doing pretty well, but they're obviously in the entertainment business, so they can really help to bring that aspect. Obviously, there's a line not to cross with that entertainment thing, i.e., please don't go anywhere near bringing a playoff system. Case closed. Not worth discussing that. But yeah, just I think Fox have big visions, and you only have to look at the press release to see their language and their belief in IndyCar through saying that, you know, it's the most competitive and dynamic motorsport. And also, one thing I picked out was Eric Shanks, the CEO of Fox Sports, said that there's year-round storytelling potential, which I just thought was interesting, because maybe with this more power, Fox can get IndyCar in slots during the NFL season, where, I mean, imagine like a lead into the events from the NFL, the viewership you might get there, the promotion you could do during the NFL games, where you've got obviously massive eyes. So could you expand the calendar? That's something IndyCar needs to really kind of harness and keep momentum, maybe prolong the schedule a bit, or at least spread it out a bit more, rather than having these massive clumps of races. But yeah, they've got big faith in the product, clearly, and it means a lot, I think, that they really see IndyCar that way and want to harness their potential. And if IndyCar grows, they grow, and if IndyCar doesn't grow, it's also having a negative impact on them with this investment. So yeah, they definitely wouldn't do this without real unequivocal belief in the product and knowing where IndyCar can reach with the right support. So it's a big chance for the big break that IndyCar deserves, and once you start getting more interest, it's just up and up from there.
Okay, so what better way to continue the theme of Fox and their investment in IndyCar by having a guest on next week who is part of the Fox Sports broadcast crew. How does that sound to you, Archie?
Brilliant. Sounds brilliant. I mean, not acting as though we haven't already recorded this episode.
Listeners, you don't need to know that. So I hope you enjoy the interviews on the show because we have another excellent one coming next week. It was a very, very good one and lots of very, very good insights, I think, on multiple different topics. So stay tuned for next week. Another interview coming, and then we'll have 2 more weeks to review Milwaukee and Nashville, and then we'll be back to square one. Can you believe it? I can't. It's gone by too quickly.
It's astonishing, isn't it? Like it's that whole like end of the road course or road and street course element of the season. Not until February we get to do that again, and yeah, this time in 3 weeks we'll be saying that about IndyCar full stop. Next time we see cars is in February. So
it feels like we finally got out of off seasoning just a few weeks ago, and oh my goodness, St. Vit's around the corner. It's
because
like
you have the off season, and you have the episodes we've got to fill like between the big gaps early in the season as well. And by the time you're out of that, it's May. May was only 3 months ago.
And then between May and whatever we're in now, August, it feels like we haven't had a week off. We've had loads of bonus episodes in that time. We've had a few. Palou was a bonus. We've had Buxton as a bonus. So there's been plenty of bonuses. So no driving mark episode this year though. Thank you, Will Power and Team Penske.
Yeah, but continue to listen through the off season. We will continue to give you an IndyCar fix, and we do a pretty good job at kind of keeping the momentum going through the off season. And we will answer. I know we've had some questions in YouTube comments. We've kind of overrun a bit here, so just keep questions coming, and if we have time in episodes, we will answer them, and if not, we will definitely get around to them during the 5.5 6 months of off seasoning that we have.
So stay tuned for next week. Going to have another barnstorming interview with somebody from the Fox crew. But for this time, thanks very much for watching. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.